Welcome back to The Confident Keeper, where I am teaching you everything I wish I would have known about raising chickens over the next 30 days. Today we're talking about grit and oyster shell. You may have heard of them, you may never have heard of them, but today we're talking about why your flock needs them. We've spent a lot of time talking about chick starter, we've moved to grower feed, and eventually we're going to move our flock to layer feed. But grit and oyster shell are two things that you need to be giving your flock at all times. So let's talk about grit first and the two different kinds you'll run into. The first is chick grit. If your chicks are only fed chick starter, they are given no treats, they are not taken outside to possibly free range in their little pen that we've talked about, and they're not getting any kind of grass or anything, you don't need to give them grit. But if there is any chance they're going to get any treats, they're out in the grass kind of free ranging in their pen or their outside brooder, you have to give them grit. Grit is needed for digestion to help them break down any kind of fibrous foods. So when your chicks are about 2 to 3 weeks old and you've got them kind of outside, maybe in the sunshine during the day, and they have the chance to kind of peck and forage around like little tiny chickens, you'll want to give them chick grit in their feed. So chick grit looks just like this. It looks like little teeny tiny rocks because it is, and you will just mix this in with their chick feed. Once your flock is about 18 to 20 weeks old and you're moving them to layer feed, you're also going to move them to chicken grit, which looks like this. There are a couple of schools of thoughts about grit. Some people keep it in its own container and your chickens will grab what they need. Other people mix it with their feed. I personally have always mixed it with my feed. I've never had any issues with that, but I have had issues when I didn't feed grit. You'll also find schools of thought saying if you free range constantly, you don't need to feed your chickens grit. And I disagree. I used to do that. I stopped feeding grit because of it, and I ended up dealing with sour crop, and I firmly believe that's why. We'll talk about ailments and sour crop and things like that in later videos. So grit is a necessary part of your chicken's diet. Let's talk about oyster shell. Oyster shell gives them the calcium they need to help form very strong shells on their eggs. If you've ever seen anyone post a video about an egg and it has like a squishy shell, that hen needs more calcium in her diet. I just place oyster shell into their coop in a bowl and they're gonna grab it whenever they feel like they need it. Here's an example of what oyster shell looks like. It is essentially just crushed up oyster shell, and they will just peck and eat it as needed. So while both grit and oyster shell are supplements, things you'll add to their feed or add to their life, they are both very necessary for their health and well-being. Tomorrow we are talking about eggs. When can you expect them? How should you collect them? It's the time you've been waiting for, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.